because I want to crack on. So I just hit unfocus this. Fabulous, cool. Okay, so welcome everybody. As I say, we've got 7 fast-paced sessions, and the first one is SEO and what is new with Google. Google are moving the goalposts. In this session, Matt Comber from Volcanic, Laura Monkton from Access, and Paige Hobart from Roast will talk through Google's major upcoming change, Google Core Web Vitals, and what threats and opportunities this brings to your recruitment business. Don't forget to put any questions in the Ask a Question section. I'll disappear now. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Louise. So yeah, pleasure to, do we say meet? I think we say meet still informally, everybody. We're just going to do a couple of quick introductions. If I can hand it over to the guys first to introduce. Paige, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I'm Paige Hobart. I'm the SEO team director at a digital marketing agency called Roast. So I'm in charge of the SEO department. I'm hopefully your SEO specialist today, although I saw some SEO whizzes in the poll earlier, so might have my work cut out for me. But I'll hand over to Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Monkton. So I'm the digital marketing specialist at the Access Group. So we are the software company, and I work in the website team to manage and look after the website with a primary kind of focus on the SEO side of things as well. Over to you, Matt.
Cheers. I'm Matt Comber, strategy director at Volcanic, part of the Access Group. And I'm going to do my best to moderate today and chip in where possible, but I definitely don't know as much as our 2 other experts that we have today about this update. So let's crack straight into it. So I think that the first question, I think for anybody who's watching now is, the question is, what is Core Web Vitals? What is the update all about? So Paige, could you tell us a bit more about what's going on?
Absolutely. And just for you guys watching, we don't have slides for this session. What we are going to do is chuck a load of links and resources into the chat. So keep an eye on that. We've got so much cool stuff to send your way. But yeah, kicking off with what Core Web Vitals actually are, I think they sound a lot scarier than they are in real life. Essentially, they're 3 metrics that Google has picked out to really help webmasters understand speed and UX. So you've got LCP, which is largest contentful paint. Sounds a mouthful, but all it's really talking about is the largest visual element on your page, because often that's the thing that makes your site really slow, that makes that page really slow, is because it's trying to load this massive image that maybe only needs to be that big. So that's a really accessible and helpful metric for you to track. The next one is first input delay. Again, it sounds really technical, but all this really is talking about is at what point that page becomes interactive. If your users come onto that page and the page is visually loaded, but they click a button and nothing happens, then that's that first input delay. That's that delay between them doing a thing and it actually working and becoming interactive. Now, I think you're going to get a little link posted in for largest contentful paint. There's a really nice image that we're going to send you that just shows how visually a page loads, because page speed is a really interesting thing, because there's the perception of page speed versus actual page speed. Your page could visually load really quickly, but actually in the background, there's loads of other stuff going on. So there's a lot of like methodology and psychology around page speed as well. Then the last metric is cumulative layout shift, which is my least favorite one to talk about because I can't say it, but it's CLS. And this is a really wanted metric from Google to start penalizing websites for this, because it's that really annoying thing where you go on a web page and you go to click something, but then the header ad loads and then the whole page drops down and you've actually clicked on something else and you're already going to somewhere you didn't want to go. Everybody hates that. And now Google's going to integrate that into their algorithm and say, if you're doing that, you're going to rank worse. Hallelujah, because it's horrible UX. It's really good that Google said, okay, these are the 3 metrics you should care about. Try not to worry about too many other things. These are the really important ones. And it's just really helpful to make it a bit more accessible to everyday web owners. Now, you've got a little bit of a break here as well, because it was due to load to be integrated into the algorithm in May, but they've just announced that they've delayed it to June through to August rollout. So you're in luck.
Yeah, that's a good thing, because I saw some report the other day that says that only about 10% sites, or 15% of sites are actually ready for this currently. So I think we would have seen quite a bit of chaos, and obviously that's probably played a part into why Google slightly delayed things, but it's not often that Google give you a chance, I like to think. So we definitely got off the hook, or certain sites will have got off the hook. Laura, if I can ask, why are Google doing this? What's the reason behind it? Because there's a lot of Google updates, right? They happen all the time. But this one in particular, why are they doing this? And can you give us a bit of history about why they might be doing that?
Yeah, of course. So Google are releasing this part of the Core Web Vitals into part of their overall ranking algorithm, and the main aim is to make sure that we're kind of providing healthy pages, especially if we want them to perform well. We need to be providing a good page experience and a good user experience when people land on our website. And I think this is one of the reasons why they've given us enough time to kind of implement it as well. They're not trying to penalize us. They're actually encouraging us to be better and encouraging us to use these best practices to be able to give the user a solid experience when they land on our website. So this Core Web Vitals algorithm update is building upon previous UX ranking signals as well. So all those things that have been around for a while, kind of making sure that websites are mobile friendly, ensuring the browser is safe, secure, doesn't contain harmful content, making sure that it's served on HTTPS, and kind of ensuring that the page content is easily accessible as well, so users can find what the content's looking for, making sure that there's no intrusive pop-ups and all that types of thing. It's all kind of formulated around page experience and user experience as well once the user's on the page. So the Core Web Vitals metrics are actually based on real-world data. And there's case studies and data out there to really link things like page load speed with bounce rates and ultimately conversions as well. So if a page load time increases from 1 second to 3 seconds, the bounce rate increases by 32%. And if you take that up to load time of 6 seconds, the bounce rate increases by 106% as well. So there's a Google tool out there, Think with Google, which should get dropped into the chat to help you out. That kind of gives you and showcases some real-time improvements as a result of the on-page optimizations you can make. So have a little look at that, see if you can draw any insights from it. We'll also touch on a little bit later in the chat about some information you can find from Google Search Console and Chrome UX reports to really kind of look at this in a bit more detail as well. I kind of think, we kind of talk about the theory and we talk about, the Core Web Vitals, but how do you think, Matt, kind of looking at it from a recruitment agency and a recruitment agency website's perspective, what does that mean for you? What does that mean for the kind of industry?
I think it's kind of it's kind of a core question, right? So I think it falls into two very specific areas that I would look at. So one of them is around candidate acquisition, which is obviously such a key part of any of these type of strategies that any of our clients would have. Candidate acquisition is going to be up there. So if you consider that, what we think the update will do, and you're never quite sure with Google until it's happened, and then sometimes even a year later, you're still trying to unpick what's happened. But there's a lot of people suspect that it will be kind of individual pages that will likely drop out of rankings. Now, that would also apply to multiple pages if you had like the same template of a page. So if your website shared templates, it would potentially damage that. So if you imagine that it was kind of like your job search, for example, or it was your job pages themselves that had a really poor performance, then you can expect to see quite a considerable drop in your traffic to those types of pages on the website. If all the pages are the same, then you're going to kind of multiply that problem. So I think candidate acquisition is key there. Now, I think the question was kind of what does it mean for me as the agency owner? The flip side of that is that if you're on top of it and you are kind of, I don't know what the right word is, you're verified or you're compliant with the update, then the contrary is true in that you'd have a boost potentially in the job pages. So that's what we want. We don't want people to always kind of look at Google negatively. I don't think we should always look at it at the positives, that side of things. So definitely candidate acquisition is one key point. I think the other side of thing is around visibility in general and brand awareness at the same time. So in general, low visibility can equal low client numbers, can equal low consultants visiting your agency's website. which are obviously going to have kind of bottom line impacts. Your consultants, your billers, they're the ones that are going to drive, the revenue for your business. If they can't find your website, it's going to become increasingly difficult to attract those people, to your brand. And if you've got things like work for us pages and you show off like your EVP, your employer value proposition, and those pages struggle with the core Web Vitals update, then again, it's going to be difficult to kind of put your brand front and center. And again, it's exactly the same for clients, right? If you have client pages or you have like downloadable documents or kind of do content marketing and those pages struggle and don't rank, it's going to be difficult for people like more cold prospects, kind of top of funnel, to actually find your brand. And I think just generally, if you're a recruitment agency that's looking to sell maybe, or is looking to kind of gain investment, if you go to an investor and they Google your brand name, and because the website's such a homepage is such a bad performance and it drops out the rankings, if they can't find your brand name, then I think we've got some problems at that point. Because it's the first thing that we all do, right? We hear a brand, we Google it. If I don't see the brand name, I think, oh, maybe they don't exist or they don't have a website yet. So that kind of credibility piece and kind of keeping your brand front and center is going to be key in kind of my opinion for this. So yeah, for sure. I think that we've got the likes of your candidate acquisition is the main thing to probably look at. And that's what it means for me. If that drops, obviously we've got a kind of a revenue issue. And then kind of secondly, we've got that client or the more the brand awareness piece that, again, if no one can find you, if you've got a shop, but the shop front's miles off the high street, then it's very difficult to generate that traffic that you'd be looking for. That's how I say it.
Matt, I've got a question come in from Caroline. It's just saying we have a volcanic site. Will they look after this for us? Since you are a volcanic expert. No,
I promise I didn't see that question up. But it's a great question. The answer is yes. We will do that. We will look after it. So as a platform, we have I've always felt, since we started this business, that we had a responsibility to support our customers. And this isn't the only Google update we've supported them through. And Google Change, we had likes of Google for Jobs, where we implemented a full structured data markup for that tool. We've had other updates that obviously that come out. We have to always have one eye on what Google are doing, because a huge drop in traffic for us is not a good thing, right? It doesn't equal happy customers. I've found that. So yeah, we are going through a process currently. We're still trialing a lot of stuff. We've just changed all of our image kind of processing to WebP, which I'm not going to bore you with it, but it's a brand new type of image processing, which will give compliance. So when people think about speed of imagery and how they load, WebP is compliant for that. There's a lot of different changes. The CLS, the cumulative layout shift, is something that we actually got ahead of way back. Probably for 3-4 years, we've not had any issues with that type of technology. So the CLS score that we have is currently really good. But the kind of first two metrics are ones that we're still in testing. We're still we're happy. We would have been ready for May. Obviously, June's given us a little bit more time, and August, a bit more time just to test off the back of that. But yeah, we our customers will be ready for that as soon as the update launches. Which is again, I didn't see that question up, but I was obviously more than happy to answer that side of things. And that kind of does come on to kind of a question that I had, and Laura, maybe I've asked you first, which is, what can we do about it? I answered some of it about kind of how we change layouts. But yeah, what is it that people can do about it? Laura, if you kind of want to start us off there?
Yeah, of course. So I guess if you're not on a volcanic platform, if you're on a non-managed, non-SaaS platform, which is what the Access Group's been on, so we've been through this process. We've kind of taken a look at this quite closely ourselves. So I guess a place where you can start is by checking your data, kind of taking a look and a check at your current situation, looking at your current performance. And there's loads of tools out there to help you. So Google Search Console. I don't know if many of you have used that and got that set up for your recruitment websites, but that's the best place to start, really. There's a tab specifically set up under enhancements to provide you with an indication of the URLs on your site that are either classified as poor or classified or as in need of improvement. There's also good, which you hope you'll be in as well. But kind of classified against the core Web Vitals metrics, you'll find your URLs in one of those 3 categories. So check out that report, check out your Google Search Console, that's probably the best place to start.
Completely.
And Paige, yeah.
Just gonna jump.
I was going to ask if you agreed, but it's good to hear that you do agree. I do agree with that.
Agree, yeah. Search Console is absolutely the tool that every site should have set up. It's a hugely powerful, free, and easy to set up tool. Like, there is no excuse. Just do it. Not only does it give you all of these core web vitals, they've just released a new page experience report this week. It's super interesting. And it also gives you tons of data around what people are searching to get to your website. So if you don't have Search Console, that is your homework from this session, is to go and set that up. However, if you don't have Search Console, there is something else that you can set up. I will pop the link in a second, or Chris will, which is called the Crux Report, the Chrome Crux Report. Literally go to the link, put your website in, click OK, and it will create this beautiful dashboard for you. Not only just a snapshot, but over time of all of the Chrome data around these metrics. And it's just data that Google has on your website that you might not have ever seen. It's so powerful. And it just really helps you understand what's going on and how it's changed over time. Maybe you did a website update in a random month, and actually it really hurt your CLS score. I've seen cookies pop-ups that should not affect these things, but actually the way it was delivered has really hurt a particular score. And just knowing that and being able to tie that back is hugely powerful for all website owners, not just in recruitment, but everything. But yeah, so I think we've just popped the link in. Go and do that. 2 bits of homework. Go and check out these 2 reports. Really important.
Yeah,
Paige, I think. Sorry, Laura.
No, you go, Matt. No. You go.
I was just going to add to the back of that. So one of the things that we have a concern about as a kind of, we've got a couple of thousand sites that run through our platform, recruitment sites, and one of the things that we're quite concerned about isn't necessarily our own technology, but just Paige, as you just said, it's the kind of third party. I'm not going to use the word plugins because we're not open source like a WordPress, but it's the consent policies where people use JavaScript and things like that onto websites, because we know for a fact that JavaScript. So the most common issue that we think we're going to have are things like chatbots and those type of chat widgets that load as part of the page loads.
Yeah.
Now, right at the start page, I think you said, some of the visual side of the page can load, but there might be some additional elements that take a longer time to load. Now, as a user, you might think, the page is loaded, but technically that page can take a lot longer than that to actually load in the background, what we call the background load. And a lot of these kind of JavaScript pieces of kit aren't very quick at loading at times. Like some chat, you'll know yourselves, you go into a website, you kind of load it up, and then all of a sudden you hear, pop, like a little pop noise appears. That's my best impression of that. And that little pop noise is kind of saying, now the chat has loaded. And you think, why randomly did that load? It was trying to load all that time. It just was right at the back of the list of loading to actually pop up. Yeah. So we have a concern, and it's a consideration for all of our customers or anybody who's using any other providers, that some of the third-party plugins that you might use, or tools, or pieces of software, they really need to be brought into the fold. Because we can't control it. We can't control their load speeds at times. And JavaScript, we know from everything Google have written and said, is one of the areas that they're quite heavily focusing on. We've massively been stripping JavaScript and compiling it in a very different way so that Google can read our websites much, much faster. So we do have that concern. I think it's something that people need to be aware of, that even if your web provider gets the website kind of ticks the boxes, if you then add tools into the website that can slow it down, Qualaroo, things like that, did you enjoy this page? Those types of tools, they also need to go through this kind of core web vitals consideration for the kind of front-facing thing. So yeah, that's kind of all I was kind of add to that. Laura, sorry, I definitely jumped across you there when you were about to speak.
That's all right. I guess it kind of builds on that point. So Google Search Console and the Crux report will give you some indication of where those errors are flagging. So all the things Matt just talked about, you can kind of drill down into an individual basis as well for the pages on your website with a tool called Page Speed Insights. So you can run individual URLs through this tool, and not only will it give you a Core Web Vitals metric score for the URL, it will also provide you with recommendations and optimization suggestions that you can make. So things like reduce your JavaScript on the page, reduce your third-party tags, minimize certain things. Don't be afraid if you don't understand it all, because they are quite tech heavy. They are quite development focused, you know, kind of recommendations. A lot of this will sit in the back end and sit on a web development kind of remit. So if it's not familiar to you, then that's okay. Don't be scared. I guess have conversations with the right people. You know, perhaps speak to a developer, speak to whoever to kind of get you on board. Google it, you know. Google it. You know, kind of do a little bit of research into exactly what's needed, but you can find those recommendations using that tool as a place to start.
Yeah, and in terms of metrics page, you know, what's your view on that? Because this is the most technical update that Google have released in a long time, right? Like for me personally, this is a development update, very much a development update, and there's a lot in the sites of this that we could talk for hours about. AMP pages and the speed of kind of it's all a move to making mobile experience a far better experience, right? And not having to serve up different websites. There's a whole background kind of history that we could go into. Yeah. But the metrics are so key, and I've juggled around with these metrics for hours on end trying to figure out and work it around. But you know, what's your view on that page?
Yeah, so I think, so Laura already touched on how PageSpeed Insights is hugely powerful. The best thing that it will also help you is prioritization, because it will give you how many seconds saved for each of the things it's found. Hugely powerful when you're having to have conversations with devs. Even this week, I've had chats with devs that go, this isn't going to help. And I'm like, I promise you it will. I promise you, it might not help page speed from your perspective because of that visual versus user, but it will help us how we're seen by Google, and we're kind of marketing ourselves to Google to rank higher. But the other thing that PageSpeed Insights will have is it will have 2 different metrics for the core Web Vitals thing. So it is quite complicated, but it will say one of them is lab and one of them is user data. This is hugely important when you're looking at any page speed metrics, any page speed tools, because lab data is essentially artificial data. You run a web page through a tool, it pings it, it records all the things, and it tells you what it found. That can vary so much. A lot of the tools you'll find online, particularly the free tools, will ping it from a US server. You might not be in the US, you might be in the UK. So being able to ping from a server that is similar to what your users will be using is really, really important, just to try and understand your lab data and your user data can be quite different, and why that might be. But the Crux report and at least half of the PageSpeed Insights data will be lab data, and those are your actual users having that experience. So always use that over your lab data. User data over lab data.
User over lab. Write that down. Yeah. I like that. And you know, we can talk about. I thought we could talk probably just while we kind of close out and then take some questions about. You know, obviously Volcanic provide a platform, which I'll come into, but obviously, you know, I've in a previous life I was an Umbraco Gold partner, kind of an agency that was an Umbraco Gold partner. The main Access Group website, which is not the Access Group Careers website, is powered by Volcanic, but the actual main website itself is runs on Umbraco, and that's obviously supported by Roast from kind of a technical and an SEO standpoint. Laura, what's kind of your view on that, and kind of what approach have you been taking for a kind of more kind of what I call like brochureware enterprise kind of content managed sites? What kind of advice would you give on that?
So we kind of we've kind of gone through the steps. You know, we audited where we currently were. We identified where there were places to improve, recommendations that we needed to take forward. And we've got a development team. We've got a development agency that we use. And we had to have conversations with those. So like I said, some of those initial recommendations were too technical, at least initially for my understanding. There's actually a question in the chat as well. So I'll read it out because it links really nicely to this. So there are some recruiters in the room who this is too technical for, or quite technical for. If they're not with Volcanic, what's the question they can write down now and ask their web developer to get this stuff sorted? So I would like to hope that a lot of web developers kind of know that Core Web Vitals is coming. Like Matt said, it's a very development-led and technical-led algorithm update. So I imagine that they will have other clients, that are kind of raising these sorts of questions, I'd look at the tools that we've suggested. I'd look at your Google Search Console. I'd look at Page Speed Insights, Google Lighthouse. That's also in one of the chats. That's also okay to use as well. That kind of gives you the same data. That's also a great tool to use. I guess look at the recommendations and take them to your dev team as a list. Kind of look at them. From a priority perspective, write them down, ask them what this means, ask them how long it will take for them to fix. I assume budgets need to come into it and all sorts, but I guess as a conversation starter, you can quite literally run the Page Speed Insights report, have a look at the recommendations, and take the list to the development team and say, how can we make improvements? It's as straightforward as that, I guess. It's a conversation opener. So if you're not technical, speak to people that are technical.
Yeah, and those two reports that Laura mentioned, the Search Console one and the Crux report, they're traffic lights. It's red, yellow, orange, red, yellow, green even. Just tell them you want more green. If you've not got enough, just tell them, and then you've got a benchmark against it as well.
Sorry to pop back on screen. Just wanted to let you know you've just got 3 minutes left. I think there's 4 questions. I don't know whether you're managing to get through them all.
I've answered a couple of them as I've just gone through that last section. We've got one question here. So is Google Search Console the same as the Google Analytics account? The answer is no. So Google Search Console is a separate tool. It's on the same Google platform suite. So it's run by Google in the same way that Google Analytics is, but it is separate and it will give you different insights and different levels of information. So if you haven't got your Google Search Console set up, it is different to Google Analytics. So it's definitely worth getting that set up.
We have another question, which is in the it's a very specific question. In the enhancements section on Search Console, I do check the job posting and logo sections. Should there be something else showing there?
I think that one's around like search features and things like that. I've not seen a logo section, but I think this is actually a really interesting topic because there's the job SERP feature that must affect all of you guys quite significantly. But I think that in of itself could be a whole other half an hour talk. But this kind of links to a different one about how to optimize your job adverts. You should look at something called Job Schema. If you're not using it, it's really important. I'm sure it's built into Volcanic. If it's not, it's going to be very soon.
It is, yeah.
It is fantastic. And therein lies all of those elements that you should include within your job adverts, because those are things that Google wants to surface. So it might be things like salary, start date, permanent, temporary, all of that kind of thing.
Cool. Do you want to take one more?
Yeah, and there's one more question, which was, I can just scroll to the bottom, or has it been pulled across? The question was around, I've used Google Lighthouse for my audits, thinking it's better than Page Speed Insights. Is this right? It's not that I don't think any of them are better or worse than any of those two tools are better or worse than the others, and some of the others, the Page and Laura spoke about as well, they all form part of a picture. Some of the tools, the Lighthouse tool in particular, especially when you get into the metrics around it, they're very transparent with the score. So that kind of gives you one view of it. Sometimes, though, it will give you a score without the reasons behind the score. So Page Speed Insights can often give some slightly different views on why or how the page is loading from that side of things. So I think there's going to be a combinations of the tools that we've kind of listed today and discussed that come together to give you the right answer. So you've done nothing wrong. No one tool's better than the other. I think it's using a blend to make sure that you're kind of heading in the right direction.
That timing was perfect. You've got 10 seconds left. So thank you very, very much, Matt, Paige, Laura. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, we'll share your details afterwards. That was so fast paced and loads of content. Thank you very much, Chris. We're going to be going live in session 2. So I'm going to end this one now and we'll see you all there.
Thanks, everyone.